Joining me now is Tim Latimer, FERVO Energy CEO and co-founder. Tim, thank you so much for joining me. We're waiting for the stock to open, I believe. I think not everyone is familiar with how geothermal energy works. So I think we should probably start there. I was just looking at some video of some of your rigs, which look very much like hydraulic fracturing rigs, for example, which is where your background is. So tell the audience how geothermal works at FERVO.
Actually, we use a lot of the same technology that the oil and gas industry uses for drilling. The big difference there is rather than drilling for fossil fuels, we're drilling for heat, the actual heat of the rock itself. And so we drill very deep wells into the ground. We've pioneered new drilling technology that allows us to do that far cheaper than anybody's been able to drill for geothermal wells before. And as a result, it's unlocking a huge new resource for geothermal. So all geothermal kind of works the same way. You drill deep wells, you pump cold water down the injection wells, it flows through the hot rock in the reservoir and comes back up as hot water or steam that can generate electricity. But what FERVO does differently is, that conventional geothermal only works in very unique volcanic areas. And because we've advanced drilling technology so we can drill much deeper and faster than has been done before, we can finally unleash geothermal across a much wider area, all across the United States and then eventually all around the world. And that's what's new about our technology, is how this drilling innovation has unlocked new locations that were previously not commercial for geothermal development.
And Tim, we're not talking about little projects for a home, residential, right? We're talking about big projects that are aimed at powering things like data centers. Now, you guys, I believe, are building out 500 megawatts under construction in Utah. Is this sort of like the test case, if you will, the test project, and then you're going to go on to some of the other bigger projects you have in the pipeline?
Sort of. That's one way to think about it. We actually completed what we would consider the test case in 2023 on Project Red, a partnership with Google, where we proved for the first time that horizontal drilling can unlock new resources for enhanced geothermal systems. And that project has been producing now for 2.5 years, which we thought was great validation for our technology. The project you're referring to, Project Cape, is now our massive scale up of that technology. Gotcha. So 500 megawatts is a very large project. That's enough to power 400,000 plus homes. So we're talking about like a city's worth of electricity generated at that project. And we'll start producing first electrons from that project later this year. And it's just one of many, many that we have in the pipeline. We've actually studied and identified from the land we have acquired to date over 40 gigawatts of potential, which would be a very meaningful percentage of the country's electricity supply. And as we move through Project Cape and beyond, we plan to bring a lot of that power online in the coming years.